45. This is the Human Resource Committee meeting for Wisconsin Rapids, and I think tonight we will start on that side of the room and introduce yourself. We'll go around.
Paul Vollert, Public Works Superintendent.
Derek Budsberg, who's got the Superintendent of the Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Sherry Evanson, District 5.
Dean Banman, Alderperson.
Jake Klinkforth, Parks and Buildings Superintendent.
Jay Bemke.
Shane Blazermeyer.
All right.
Ryan Hartman, HR Manager.
There you go. Call the meeting to order at 4:40, 4:50. Item number 2 is discuss and consider for approval the proposed rates for seasonal laborers for DPW, Parks, and Recreation. See the attachment. Mr. Hartman.
All right, thank you, Chairman. What we are looking at, we've had issues over the last couple summers recruiting seasonal employees, and on the request of Paul Vollert and Jake Klingforth, we've proposed, or we would like to propose moving the current minimum rate to $14.50 for seasonal employees. And I believe between the two areas, we're looking at approximately 9 individuals. And I think you have the numbers in front of you, how that would look and how that could affect budget-wise. And if Paul or Jake want to expand on it, that would be great.
So like Ryan said, attached you have the current rates. So currently right now, between the two departments, it is budgeted at $12.18 an hour for 500 hours for the seasonal employees. And then there are 2 LTEs that are budgeted at $16 an hour for 1,080 hours. And then 2 LTEs that are budgeted at $20 an hour for 1,080 hours, for a total of $60,360 for the budget numbers. Looking at the staff that we had over last year, none of our seasonal employees worked the total 500 hours. Most of them on the average here, second, let me find it, I'm sorry. Between the 4 seasonal employees that we had, their average was 447 hours for the seasonal months. So only reason why I give you that is just for the budgetary impact of if we increase the hourly rate to the steps that we have there. For our department, it would be about a $4,500 increase if we were to get seasonal employees using an average of $15 an hour, because obviously we have some that we would recommend that it would be coming back for their second year, so we would be paying them $15 instead of $14.50, and then the additional ones would be starting out at $14.50. The last year we needed 6 seasonal employees, and we had 9 apply. By the time we got through everything, 2 of them already got different jobs, and then the other one, once we made the offer, wasn't interested. So we did end up with all 6 employees. I think it's been 7 or 8 years that we tried the LTE position, and that whole time that we've done that, I think there was 1 out of the 7 years that we've had 2 LTEs in each department, because we just can't get qualified applicants to even apply for those hourly wages either. So the best way to say it is that, you know, we don't know if it's the work or if it's simply the pay rate. You know, you can look at the aquatic center, and we're paying 15 and 16-year-old young people to be lifeguards, and they're paying them $11 an hour, you know, and we're paying 18-year-old people, they have to be 18, and they work pretty hard out on the street in the 80, 90-degree weather, and we're paying them $12.18. I don't know if this is going to make a difference or not, but looking at the area communities, in January when I looked at this, the Village of Plover was paying $12 to $12.50 an hour. I looked last week, and they're now paying $14.50 an hour. City of Stevens Point, is paying $14.50 to $14.75. City of Wausau is $13.06 to $15.36. Town of Rome is $13.53. And then the Village of Port Edwards, like I said, last month when I looked at it, was still at $12 an hour. So, we gotta do something, I think. Otherwise, it's not like it was 8 years ago when we used to have 30 people apply for it and we had to draw names out of the hat in order to interview them, so.
Thank you. Derek or Jake, you want to add anything?
Probably not adding too much. Paul kind of hit everything on the head. It's just being just aware of what other communities are paying their seasonals. We just got to try to be a little more competitive. And like I said before, Paul hit pretty much everything right on the head. This year I'll have only one returning, so 4 will be brand new, so they'll be starting at $14.50. So my budget would probably go up. I have about $3,700 difference from what it would be from last year.
I completely agree with Paul too. I think raising those rates will hopefully get more employees, better summer help, more competent summer help at certain times. A lot of those people are working near the streets, and even just for safety reasons, it's good to have competent employees that understand what's going on and are more aware of important situations.
Derek, do you still get summer help out there?
We do get one for the collections department, and we might end up getting one for the plant this year if we can't get an intern.
Committee, questions?
Was the, Wausau had a range. The other ones all seemed to be flat number. What was that?
So the City of Wausau was $13.06 to $15.36. And that's, we would, typically what we do is we have a bottom end, and then if you return the first, or after 1 year, then I believe it was a 50-cent increase. And then you to return, the second or third year, it's another 50 cent. And that's what we were gonna propose also. Typically, you get to that third season, and the employees are starting to look for internships. We do have some that have come back for 4, and some being the 5th year, but not very often.
Thank you.
Just have one question of Mr. Hartman. So the question at Water and Light came up yesterday of 17-year-olds or not 18-year-olds. Is there a reason why we can't hire 17-year-olds or kids coming out of high school, graduating, and going into whatever they're doing?
Yeah, thank you for that. Great question. Paul and I think we started exploring this last year. And what happens is if and this is state statute, state law, they cannot be running basically motors, engines, anything along those lines. By state statute, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but operating like a push lawnmower on city premise would be considered operating an engine, and that's where the need for 18 comes in. Am I so far on point as to what we discovered last year? Because you're exactly right, Mr. Bemke. We just, with Jake or Paul, we just had this conversation earlier this week. If there was any way, and the mayor is who I had the conversation with as well, we have numerous high school students asking to do the work that we're looking for, and the primary reason for that is because they want to have money to buy a vehicle because they're 16, 17 years old. They want to make that good money to buy that vehicle, and we're kind of strapped with that because they have to be 18, obviously, for liability reasons. So that's where that stems from.
Thank you. No. All right, what are the wishes of the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3. Discuss and consider for approval the appointment of a relief supervisor within the Parks and Recs Department as needed, determined by the Park and Building Superintendent. Jake or Ryan? Jake?
Yeah, we're just basically proposing this. We would follow the same guidelines as what the street department has for a relief supervisor. You would have a bidding sheet out for park staff to bid on this position. I know 3 employees have already asked about it, and they are interested in doing this position. Pretty much is taking over in my absence job duties, taking phone calls, emails. Again, pretty much everything what the street department does on their side.
Thank you. Committee? Sherry?
Thank you. So I just have a couple questions. I don't know if Sue's online or if she's here, Sue. And I'm sure, Ryan, you probably talked about it, but I was just looking at our personnel handbook, and it's saying that the department heads must complete the personnel requisition position needs analysis, and I was just wondering to make sure that was done. It says to request justify for personal needs, replacement, modification, and/or new positions. And as this would be a new position, it needs to be submitted January through June, and then it would be approved in the budget process for the next year. So was this process followed is all I'm asking, I guess.
I think Sue is online. Sue, do you want to speak to that?
I'm not sure what process.
So I think, I know where Sherry is with that question, I believe, and that's one of those, it's basically an outdated policy if you're referring to the requisition request form. Anytime a position is, somebody leaves or if we're looking to add, I know that has not necessarily been followed in the time that I've been here, and I believe prior to that. But I could be mistaken as to what policy you're finding that in, and I guess that's why I'm deferring to Sue, because.
It's the one
Right,
that
can you hear me? Yeah, I mean, I guess I would probably consider this more of additional duties to an existing position, right? Because you're not creating another position. It's, I guess, kind of an appointment of some additional duties to a position that already exists. Is that correct?
So who is in that position now then? If we're not creating a new one? Because I don't know if someone has the updated policy. To what I'm reading, and not that I'm against it, I'm just wanting to follow the rules because I know sometimes in the past the council hasn't, the committees have not. Because the way that I'm reading it is it says to justify personnel needs for replacement, modification, and/or new positions. So to me, this would be a new position according to the new organizational chart because we don't have a relief supervisor in place right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we currently have this position, we currently have this position in the street department, and what Sue was alluding to as basically additional duties, so when Jake is gone, somebody that's currently within the current org structure just takes on the additional duties. For instance, and Paul can speak to this, when they have the on-call supervisor over the weekend, they get a different hourly rate, I believe, Paul. Is that right? Okay. They move that. So we currently have that position within DPW or within the street department, and Jake with that piece coming out would just be looking to modify and have the same setup. Does that help clarify?
It does, but I thought that this was a new position. I remember I looked back at our notes when we were talking about the organizational chart and that this was a new position that was created.
Jay.
So in the street department, we have the position of relief supervisor. So when a supervisor is off, that relief person can be moved up. And when Park and Recs was part of the street department, that relief person could fill in for the Park and Rec superintendent should they be gone. So really, it's being additionally peeled out from the street department. So it's not a new position. It was a position that is within the public works structure, and it's just now it's going to be filling that role and responsibility in the Parks Department only, and not crossing over between parks and streets.
Okay, and I get that, I see it, but so we're not going to have a relief supervisor underneath your organizational structure as it is now? Because it says the superintendent under Paul, and then Bob, Dustin, Matt, and then underneath those is a relief supervisor. But then under park and building superintendent, it says relief supervisor, and then it says work group, Joan, Dawn, Mary, Sally, and then seasonal staff. So who's in that position now then, if that's not a new position, I guess?
Well, it's a position anytime it becomes vacant. Okay, it's a new, I guess technically if you're going to say it's a new position that's going to only operate in parks, that would be that position, yeah.
Okay,
But-
but it's a new position, according to our policy.
It's not new.
Paul, do you want to add something?
I mean, I get the streets department, I get it, because they shared, and now that you're divided.
So what,
But to me, it's still a new position because your relief supervisor is not coming over to the parks, correct?
correct. And so what you had brought up when you had, with your previous statement about requisitions and getting approval by the first of the year, it's my understanding of it that that would be for a new position, so a new body. Okay, this is someone that's within the work group of the 45 or the 40 people that we have that are within the public works. And when Jake is gone, it would just be a temporary assignment of that person to cover for Jake. No different than what you're seeing in the org chart there as a relief supervisor for us. We actually have two individuals that are in that position. It's not a full-time position. It's simply someone out of the work group that may be a truck driver, maybe an equipment operator, maybe a common laborer that fills those roles for weekends on calls or when the supervisors are on vacation or gone, training, whatever. So it's not, the requisition piece is required when it's a new position or an additional position. We also do a requisition when it's going to do this temporary assignment to have the advertisement done, but it's just the best way to say it is a temporary assignment of an existing position.
Okay, and so there will not be any change to the budget, the current budget that's budgeted for the Parks Department as of now? There's no change, okay.
Anybody have anything else? If not, is there a motion? What are your wishes?
Move to approve the position.
Second, there's a motion and a second to approve the position. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 4, discuss and consider for approval modifying the chief operator position to the assistant wastewater superintendent position with the Department of Public Works. See attached job description. Ryan or Derek, either one?
Sure, I'll just briefly, so what you have in front of you is a revised potential job description and a renaming, mostly a renaming of the former chief operator position into the assistant wastewater superintendent. Derek, this has been a project that was in the process of being done prior to the wage study, then it kind of got held off for a while because of the wage study happening, and then everything that transpired, Derek getting into the position. So in the posting, time to post now, we thought it in the best interest to change that title. Derek then also updated the what was the old job description of the chief operator to get any outdated jobs, duties, and responsibilities out of there and put into there what he had been doing since he had come on board to the city. And I believe that is now what has been given to you. And Derek, I guess I'll turn it over to you if you have any other additional information or if I missed anything on the process there.
Yep. The big reason for this is to have a better succession plan at Wastewater, just in case of the event that I'm not here anymore. Somebody can step into that role that knows more of the financials. There is several little things that only my eyes have seen and only things that I have done that we need to get somebody on board that knows it as well, to make a lot easier transition in the future. Some of those things are just our industrial billing and industrial hauling and things like that. So at least two people are kind of on the same page at Wastewater for any future changes.
And I think you'll notice on there, hopefully the highlight in there that it would go from hourly to salaried. And then obviously the job title change, so.
Committee, any questions?
I just have one again, and Sue, I'm not trying to do it, I'm just trying to make sure that we're following policy. So even though the policy says to justify personal needs for replacement or modifications of any positions, the personal requisition position needs analysis does not need to be done, so what we're doing is not breaking our own policy. Is that correct, Sue? Because we're modifying the
I'm
position.
sorry, I didn't hear the end of what you said. So you're saying where the policy says that if you're modifying a position, that can only be done during a certain period of time?
No, that's,
Or,
yeah, in there it just says for new positions, but it just said the personal requisition position needs analysis to justify personnel needs for replacement, modified, and/or new positions. And then it only said new positions for the next budget process. So this is just modifying it, but it just says the personal requisition position needs, and I'm just making sure that we're following policy, that's all.
right, I would say this is not a new position. It's probably a slight modification and a retitling of the position versus something that would need to be budgeted or should have been part of a budgeting process.
And so you're saying we don't need the personal requisition position needs analysis done then?
Was there not one done to explain this, that this was happening, then it was approved at some point? Or, I guess I'm not sure what was done up to this point.
Yep, we signed off on, the mayor, myself, and I think Derek signed off on the requisition request for the assistant superintendent.
Okay, and it just says financial or finance director prior to HR committee or finance committee approval if there was going to be a budgeted difference, but this isn't. I just want to make sure we're following policy, that's all. As long as it's good, I'm good.
No, I'm in favor of having a succession plan in place at all times. So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah, Joe Eichstead was not able to make it this evening, but he did give me a little bit of background on this, and is in favor of the way this is proceeding. He just thought it would be beneficial to point out to the HR committee the background to the assistant city engineer and what the pay grade used to be. So it was in 2010 It was then moved to a design engineer 2, which was what Joe Eichstad came into the city as, a new position at the time, and then it assumed the roles and duties of the assistant engineer. The design engineer 2 job description was developed from and mirrors the assistant city engineer position. So that's from Joe, and just thought that would help as a background for this request. Thank you.
Committee, any discussion? Sherry?
Any change of budget, same pay grade, everything's the same? And again, I'll just go back to, as long as we're doing it according to our policy, that it says modification, as long as we don't, you're saying that we don't need it, then I'm fine with it. But I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that that's what policy says.
Yep.
Thank you.
Dean?
No.
Anybody else? With that, I'll make a motion to approve the design engineer position to assistant city engineer. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 6, update on combining of hiring policies. Ryan?
Okay, this is just a quick update on, we had talked about looking at some of our promotional processes or current positions, openings, refills. And as I had just alluded to with Sherry, I think we found a way for, hopefully by April, we'll be looking at combining, and it was 3 to 4. I think it might be 4 policies down into 1. So that's just, it's really, no action needs to be taken. It's neither here nor there. I think it's just a good piece of information because we've referenced our policy in the 277 pages multiple times at the committee level. So we think we found a good start to combine 4 hiring policies into 1. So that's what we're hoping to shoot for in April. Thank you.
Committee?
Ryan, just one quick question. So I know you and I, we had talked about updating the policies, so the HR policies introduction, so this whole book, everything would be updated as well as in here. And like you're saying, since some of these policies you're saying are incorrect, so thank you.
Dean? Nothing?
Nothing.
Anybody else? Comments? If not, we'll move on to item number 7, update regarding the wage study.
All right, thanks. I know this has been a process and people have been asking. So just to update on the wage study, Carlson Detman is prepared or will be prepared to come present to us when we are ready. So in the next couple of weeks, we will be getting our internal group together that they had presented to originally a couple months ago. And then we will need to, we will then plan to come to the HR committee with a proposal for the plan that they would be bringing forward. So that's where that's at. Ideally, we could look to April, but in talking with a couple people today, we might be looking at May. So, but that's just kind of the update where it's at, and I would entertain any questions on that if there are any.
I just had one. I know we had talked in our HR committee last year. I was cautious about if job positions, if people are falling in different job positions or different scales or different steps, that it was important to me to look at that they didn't just get 1 cent raise or a 2 cent raise. And I know you had said that that wasn't going to happen. I just want to make sure before I see it that didn't happen.
That's a great question, and that is one of the hurdles we're trying to overcome, is how do we work through certain variances of that we might be seeing. So we will be presented with multiple plans to pick from, with different avenues on how to approach certain things. And absolutely to your point, Mr. Bemke has the same exact concerns. So, for instance, without going into too much detail, but if we have approximately 112 people, bodies being looked at, not positions, but bodies, and some fall under market, most are in line, and then a few are above market. How do we approach that? Do you just say we're not touching it? Or do we let everything keep going as is? And if you implement a COLA between now and then, what factor is that going to play? Or do you catch up the under market? And it's an option, a 1 cent raise, but obviously not popular. And I like to have my tires inflated when I leave work, so I'm not in favor of that option. Or is it maybe a lesser increase for those out of market? Another thing that we asked them to pursue, and they are and have done this, to your question is, if we did see something out of market, we asked them to go back and double check because we wanted to see that XYZ position and XYZ position from another municipality were comparing apples to apples and not just job titles to job titles. And that, again, we'd rather do this once and do it correctly than say, there, we got this and we got it done, and then have to come back and make adjustments constantly. So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? I think before we get to item number 7, it looks like we may have found an evening for our meeting date. So I think it's been determined 5 o'clock on the second Thursday, I believe it is. If that works for everybody, we can schedule our next meeting. Very good.
That works for me. Thank you.
All right. I guess with that, then, we will move on to item number 7, and that is adjournment. Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn at 5:21 p.m. Thank you.